What's up, AfterBuzzers? We're here talking Season 2, Episode 6 of The Magicians. That's right, we're talking the Cock Barrens. We got a whole lot to cover tonight, including arranged marriages, kidnapped castles, all sorts of stuff. And we're starting right now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
All right, you know what? I can get into this. There we go.
R.I.P. George Michael.
Oh, man. It's been a little while. It still stings a little bit.
It does.
But, you know, sex has been coming up so much in The Magicians, especially lately. Mm-hmm. I feel like we had to pay homage to the former Whammer himself.
Yes.
Guys, this is The Magicians After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV. We're talking Season 2, Episode 6. Just like I said at the top of the show, that's right. We're talking the Cock Barrens tonight. And what a night to talk about. We are halved. We are half of a squad tonight, we'll be back at full strength next week.
We are.
This is my first time being here in a very long time.
Yeah.
Just got.
Welcome back from Europe.
Thank you so much. I was just traipsing along in Europe, you know, seeing Northern Lights and touristy stuff and.
Did you go to Iceland?
All sorts. I went to Norway. Norway,
yes.
I went to Tromsø, Norway, for all our Norwegian AfterBuzzers out there. Guys, my name is Ty Matthews. Y'all can find me on social media at Ty Matthews PMA, as well as various other AfterBuzz shows. And joining me, 25% of our normal squad. Very, very lovely actress, comedian, improviser.
Oh, geez.
All that good stuff. You can find her online at Miss Adrian Snow.
Yes.
Guys, this is Adrian Snow.
Hi, everyone. I'm not a comedian, though. I mean, I do improv.
Well, not like not of the stand-up variety.
You know what I mean. Like,
you're a funny person.
Oh, shoot. Thank you.
You're a funny lady.
Yes,
one of those funny ladies.
A funny daddy. A daddy funny.
There you go.
There we
you
go.
got it. You got it.
I got it.
Well, we got a whole lot to get into tonight with the Cock Barrens.
We do.
There's one of the things that can we just get like a George Michael undercurrent throughout the whole episode? One thing that I've been noticing is that there are so many subplots happening all at once.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at my notes right now, we've got Quentin and Alice's parents, Daniel and Stephanie, at the memorial, doing what they do, trying to, summon.
Mourn, but also be kind of mildly selfish.
Exactly, as you do. We've got Penny traipsing around with the map maker, who was easily one of my new favorite characters
Pickwick?
in the show. Not Pickwick.
That's not Pickwick?
That's not Pickwick. No. I don't know if this anonymous cartographer got a name.
I think they had him listed weirdly on IMDb. I thought it's
Oh, really?
But I could be wrong.
Because Pickwick was Rizwan, who we had in studio.
Yeah, but he was also the guy who's the cartographer. His last name was also Pickwick.
Oh, is there another? Oh, it's like a family
It was like
name.
Benjamin Pickwick. Yeah, the Pickwick family, because that's what,
Okay.
oh my gosh, I'm blinking again. What's his face talked about when he was in...
Rizwan.
Yeah, Rizwan.
Right,
when he was actually in the studio.
I think you're right. Okay, so I love this guy. Map Maker's awesome.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, we've got Margot and Princess of Loria. We'll get into everything in detail later on. We're just kind of touching on the bases. We've got Elliot and Fenn, his betrothed.
Yep.
And of course, Julia and Katie.
Yeah, and we also have Baylor with Finn as well, even though he's not in this episode.
Oh, right.
He's
Right.
discussed.
The Foo Fighter.
The Foo Fighter.
How could we forget about the Foo Fighter? So one thing that jumped out at me about the Cock Barrens, about this episode, is that Elliot and Margot both kind of get these parallel moments where, we've known them for so long, for, a season and a half, for being so cynical and kind of sarcastic. And they both get almost identical moments of like saying something, heartfelt and really trying to connect with someone.
Yeah.
And people just kind of like...
And failing miserably.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
With Margot, with Quentin at the beginning, where he's doing the Cirque du Soleil.
Of course.
I've watched this episode a few times. The first time I saw it, I took it the same way Q saw it, and then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, she was actually trying to be
right.
kind and
she's got that tone where even if she's being sincere, like
I have the same tone, so I understand.
Right, exactly. It's the vocal equivalent of RBF, which also gets name dropped in this episode as well.
RBF.
Resting bitch face.
Resting bitch face. I know. I didn't want to say it, but yes, I kind of have resting bitch face on occasion. That doesn't, I just don't want to smile. get over it.
Sometimes, you know,
Sometimes
you
just
got to
how it is.
save it. You got to save that energy.
You do. It takes energy to smile.
Absolutely. But and then we also get a similar moment with Elliot and Penny. When Penny kind of first arrives on the scene, they're kind of commiserating about Alice's death, and Elliot legitimately tries to kind of reach out to him.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily on Elliot as much as it is on Penny.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because Penny doesn't like to do that lovey-dovey stuff either.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of segues. Another thing that we saw in this episode is it seems like Penny is kind of coming around on trusting people a little more. Do you think that's the case? Well, see, I think the Penny that we saw at the beginning of season 1, I don't think necessarily would have been down to. I mean, obviously the map maker, you know, had
what he needed.
Yeah, exactly. He had a use to Penny, but I feel like Penny kind of trusted him a little bit more, you know, than he might have before.
I don't know. I think it might have been circumstantial because there was no one else there.
Right.
Like once the castle disappeared, then that was pretty much all he had, and he still needed something from him. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about how Penny's being used this season.
How so?
He seemed to, you know, without him being a magician at this time, because he's just essentially only being able to travel.
Yeah.
It seems like they don't know what to do with him, which is kind of frustrating to see. Like, they don't really know what to do with his storyline. And then we have him down there with Mayakovsky, and where is that going to go, and why is it leading him to Fillory? Are they going to, you know, give us any more leeway with that? So he's kind of separate from the group. And they're also not using his traveling skills as much because now they have the button.
Right.
And so
I had completely forgotten about the button for a hot minute.
Yeah. So I just wish he would do a little bit. I don't know. His storyline this year seems kind of like.
Sure, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah.
And it's ironic. Yeah, the traveler is kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love kind of that subplot with him and Mayakovsky, and I was sad not to be here to talk about not only his subplot with Mayakovsky, but everything between Mayakovsky and Emily, everything between Emily and Quentin. So many characters are being introduced at such a fast pace, but it's not overwhelming. It's not so much that you can't, because I kind of got that feeling in the first season where there were so many characters getting kind of thrown at us that some of them I would end up kind of confusing and mixing up with the two.
No, yeah, I understand that. I think the nice thing about this season is that we're revisiting a lot of characters. So a lot of characters that we met last year are being reintroduced, which is nice. And I don't feel overwhelmed by the new characters coming in, like the castle characters. Is expected because they're in a different land that they will be there.
Right.
But I guess it just overall, this particular episode felt a little sluggish for me. It just felt kind of like things could, like they were setting stuff up, but I don't know. It just kind of felt like a dip in the season.
I could see that. And I think to that point, it might have been a case of maybe the show kind of setting the bar a little bit high early in the season. I was reading the AV Club's review of, I think it was episode 3, and and they made a good point where it's like so much happened in that episode that you would have expected in a finale. Yeah. And it's in episode 3 of season 2. Yeah. So kind of, you know, where do you go from there?
Exactly.
But there's a lot of it's a slower pace, but there was a lot of interesting kind of character dynamics going on here. I'm very, very interested in what's going on with Elliot and how he's kind of coming around on Fen, and how he's shocked at himself that he's even, you know, starting to like this woman that he's impregnated.
Yeah. I think Joelle said something last week of like, he does treat her well, and he's not cruel to her, which, you know, that's nice and all. I mean, I don't think it's enough to sustain a relationship.
Sure.
But
he treats her well in that
he doesn't completely ignore her or cast her off.
But it almost, do you think he's kind of patronizing in a way? Maybe up until this week. I think this week he might have turned a corner. But before that, I got the idea that, or I got the feeling that he was being nice to her, but in sort of a placating way. Like, oh, like, aren't you cute? You know?
Yeah, I could see that. I felt like, I could see that. I don't know if I necessarily got that exactly, but I think within the first few beats of the episode, when Penny comes in and talks to him, and he kind of just casts Fenn aside to be like, we'll talk later. It kind of goes against how I felt he had been treating her throughout the season, which is just like more attentive and listening to her, because when Margot's not there, Penny and Quentin, when they're all not there, he relies on her more. And so when they are there, I think he kind of pushes her to the side. I know with the reveal that she was also a Foo Fighter, that kind of upset him or hurt him in a way, but to that extent, I would also just be like, well, let's use her for information, because, you know, there was an entirely different thing going on before they became king and queen. And so now they have to kind of catch up with what's been going on in the actual, city of Fillory. What is a proper kingdom of Fillory? There you go.
There you go.
I was like city, town, country.
Fiefdom.
Fiefdom.
There you go.
There we go. So I don't know. I'm curious to see like how that relationship's going to develop, only because you can tell he doesn't want to be like a father. But that's just part of the territory of being a king. It's just kind of like,
Do you think he might, as this pregnancy goes along, that he might kind of warm up to the idea of being a dad?
No, because I think last episode they talked about how he just didn't want to be like his father.
Right.
And also, I think a big thing that we forget about is that they're still college students, even if they are master's students. I would make them in their mid-20s.
True.
Or still early 20s if they go directly from college to break bills.
Sure.
So this is not somebody who is age-wise prepared to take this on. I mean, he created a version of himself out of clay so he could go and sleep with men and get wasted at break bills.
That's true.
You know, that's just somebody who's like, I'm ready to be a father. I'm ready to take responsibility for this kingdom.
That's true. Yeah. Not to jump back too much, but I was surprised at how kind of affected I was by that scene, by the kind of the doppelbanger, as they call it in this episode tonight. But how interested I was in the idea of kind of the use of Elliot's sexuality in such kind of an increasing ways, in that, it being so representative of his kind of dual life, his not only being in break bills and in Fillory, but also being with a man in one and being with a woman in the other.
Yeah, at the same time.
It's fascinating from a narrative point of view, but it's also fascinating, just looking at what that means for Elliot's character, because it's something that I think was played for laughs through so much of season one, and now it's becoming kind of this powerful device, I feel.
Well, yeah, in case kids don't know, when you raw dog a woman and you come inside her. Sorry to get vulgar, you guys.
We are getting blue tonight.
It's just sex.
Yeah.
But when you insert yourself into a woman without the use of a condom, and then you proceed to ejaculate into the woman, she can become pregnant.
Sure.
And so I think that's let that be a lesson to everyone that
AfterBuzz TV exclusive.
Condoms are important.
They are. They're absolutely.
Birth control is important.
I feel like that can't be overstated in this show's universe.
Yes.
Like,
it's something that often in TV people forget to talk about, but safe sex is important.
Very important. Very important.
Yeah.
But
I think that's something in terms of Elliot, that he's, as a gay man, has, outside of condom usage for safety, has never had to think about impregnating a woman.
Right.
So in that moment when he was having sex with that man, and he was having sex with Fenn at the same time, that probably didn't even cross his mind that she would become pregnant from that.
Right.
And it's just a very interesting contrast of like, oh wow, this is something I never have to think about. And I think that's kind of a thing that is a big issue between men and women overall, gay or straight, of like, this is something that I don't really have to think about. Sure.
Now I'm thinking about something right now. because I had never considered this before. Is that particular instance of him having sex with Fen, is that what we're believing was kind of the moment of conception for the baby that she has right now? Only because we've got this whole dual reality going on.
You thought it...
One of those realities with a man. So I figure...
You thought it was in the butt.
In both realities, it had to be backdoor action. Right?
I don't necessarily think so.
Because if he is just doing kind of, the God's honest, just straight up...
Well, from what I gathered, I thought the first time they had sex... I thought they had only had sex twice. And from the first time, he did not come to completion.
Okay.
Because the only reason I say that is because I think that if it had just been the sex that they had, that would have been something he would have thought about.
I see. I see.
Oh, well, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Or maybe not.
I think I'm just getting hung up on the logistics of if in Fillory he's, just boning down normal style with Fen.
Well, he was still doing it doggy style. What would the doppelganger be doing? We're going there.
With, what's the guy's name? Javier. Was it Javier?
Maybe? I don't
Pretty
know.
sure.
He was doing them both doggy style, but just... Sorry, guys. One was in the butt, one was in the vag.
Interesting. God damn it, Mark. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's what I thought.
I guess that checks out.
I assumed that that's what they were doing. I really felt like if it was in the butt, there would have been a commentary with Fen, at least. There would have been like some type of commentary about her doing that, because it seemed like she was essentially a virgin.
Yeah.
So,
that probably... Yeah.
Or maybe not. I mean, also we find out with Baylor that she wasn't a virgin. So...
Right. Right. The plot thickens.
So, but I don't know. I assumed that was the point of conception.
I see. Okay.
And also time moves differently there, and so we've been, because from the first time they had sex to the second time, all that stuff with Alice happened, and then I think we had to confirm that it had been like weeks,
right,
since she had died. Between 3 and 4. Right.
Not to get too hung up on sexuality, but this is obviously something that's coming up a lot with Elliot, especially. Now, you mentioned, Elliot as a gay man. I've always felt like Elliot,
was more fluid than that.
Was more kind of more bisexual. I think leaned more, because I think what he said in this episode was like, he compared it to liking Thai food, So sometimes you feel like it, but like not every day forever till you die.
He's more like a Kinsey, what is that? A Kinsey 5?
Yeah, there you go.
Where on occasion he'll do it, but he doesn't really want to.
Right.
No, I could see that, but I also think they were toying with that more in season 1, but it seemed pretty clear that he is a gay man. Like, whether or not he occasionally dabbles with women, I feel like he's the kind of man, judging from the threesome of last year, that dabbles with women when other men are involved.
Oh, I see.
Not something he would choose to do.
Right. And not that it matters. The only reason I even bring it up is because I'm interested in how that plays with the dynamic of his feelings toward Fen. If, he mentions actually starting to like her, does that mean just genuinely loves her as a person, or developing romantic feelings?
I think it's just he likes her as a person.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that's what he would choose for his life.
Sure.
I just don't think that's for him.
Right. There's a lot happening. Elliot is one of my favorite characters on TV right now, because he's so kind of multifaceted.
Yeah.
And so watching him and Margot evolve in these ways. Exactly,
because it's kind of dealing with that transition into that's like a second chapter of adulthood, essentially. Like, you have your first chapter of adulthood where you're just learning the ropes, just learning how to exist on your own without help from your parents, though you could still probably get help from your parents.
Right.
So seeing them go into this part where it's like, oh, we have to take responsibility and we're responsible for other people, that has to change their dynamic.
Right. So let's use that as a segue to talk about Margot kind of her evolution. We see some interactions between Elliot and Margot and the neighbors of Fillory, the kingdom of Loria, namely Princess of Loria. And he tries to strike a deal with them. He says, you know, each of us gets 50% of the wellspring once all of Ember's fecal matter has been, you know, flushed away. Not only that, he wants the Virgin Queen Margot's hand in marriage, which is absolutely like, he doesn't realize, how much of a like,
how incorrect he is.
Joke that was. But it's interesting seeing the idea of kind of arranged marriage being introduced and kind of Margot starting to come around on that after being so vehemently against it at first.
Yeah.
Did you think that it was kind of quick or that it was kind of a sharp turn for her to come around on it?
I think her coming around on it only is from the influence of Elliot of being like, hey, well, I'm dealing with it. This is something you just have to deal with. You know, at least you can leave. Like this whole marriage thing. But it's also kind of, she did bring up a good point that for a woman, an arranged marriage is a very different story. Like it's not, you know, and she's like, I don't know if he has any idea what consent is. Like,
right.
Judging by the way he's offered me up, it's just kind of like, well, I am your wife and I do what you say. And that's exactly what he kind of proved to think when he was talking to her about like how I would still allow you to speak in public and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
that he was on the more progressive side, right?
Which is, you know, when people say they're progressive and like they say the craziest crap comes out of their mouth.
Right.
And you're just kind of sitting there like, okay, I guess you're not as progressive as you think you are.
Right.
But yeah, I liked that conversation came up that, you know, arranged marriages don't seem like a good idea for anyone, but for a woman, it's actually a liability. Like it's actually a dangerous thing you could be putting her into.
Right.
And with Prince S, you know, they tried to kind of have it like, well, he is from Earth, from Cincinnati.
Right. Got shipped off to Exeter as a kid. Yeah.
But I did think it was a bit weird that the way that they said he was from Earth is because he was talking in black slang. Like, but he's supposed to be like from Exeter. And
right.
So I was like, okay, I kind of get what you're trying to do, but it's also a little weird.
Yeah, I think another thing that jumped out at me is that at first he says that it's purely a political move, the marriage, you know, that he's doing it strictly for political reasons. And then, but obviously that's maybe 2 minutes before she kind of really breaks him down. Yeah,
it was nice to see that exertion of power from Margot, and it's been really great to see how she uses kind of that cattiness when it empowers her more.
Sure.
You really see that she's kind of like the commanding one in the kingdom. But I don't know. I thought before they started involving other kingdoms, I would have liked a little bit more time with the people of Fillory.
Sure.
And a little bit more focus on the Foo Fighters this episode.
Absolutely, yeah. This whole subplot of you know this uprising, the fact that they're so dead set against a non-Florian ruling Fillory.
Yeah.
Before the show turns into the Elliot Margot hour, we definitely have to talk about Julia and Katie.
Yes, and Quentin.
Right, absolutely. Julia obviously has not been able to get rid of this baby.
No.
You know, Renard's baby. In the meantime, they're trying to track down the last person that was able to banish him 40 years ago. Going through all these old newspapers and you know, pinpointing all these phenomena that draw them to Hoboken, New Jersey, and draw them to Dana. And it opens up this whole question that was fascinating to me about sacrifice, about the fact that, you know, once they get in, Julia and Dana, you know, they shoot the shit a little bit, make a little small talk. Before you know it,
Dana's crazy.
Dana's taking a bat to her head. But she says that the only way for her to banish Renard is to have this baby. And so obviously Julia's not for that, but it's interesting the kind of shades of gray that we're playing with here. I think obviously Dana, taking a bat to her head is not super pleasant, but it's still in the name of banishing Renard.
Yes. I mean, I think I understand, like, I guess it's kind of Dana's thought process, but she's also kind of cursing Julia to her life.
Right.
I mean, she keeps essentially a man locked up in her basement so that nobody can find her. She probably is not somebody who really gets to go out and enjoy life because of that, because she needs to constantly be around this magical creature.
She has to buy tons of kitty litter.
Cat litter.
Yeah.
She's cleaning up a grown man's poop. Poop. And that's her life. And what she's essentially telling Julia is that that's going to be her life.
Right.
So I think for Julia, it's much more dangerous to have the baby. And this is where we go into a lesson. So,
go on.
When a woman is tasked with either having an abortion or having the baby and giving the baby up for adoption, if the woman is impregnated by a homicidal, abusive man who will stop at nothing to find her and to find the baby, is it safer to assume that she should have the baby and somehow put the baby up for adoption and still be on, basically, know that this man is going to be constantly looking for her, constantly trying to hunt her down because she had his baby? Or is it safer for the baby that she does not want and is still at the weekly process where it could have an abortion, to have an abortion, to not bring a child into the world that's life is already going to be in danger and endangering herself? That's just something to put out there.
But to play to play devil's advocate to that point, in the canon of this show, if she were to have the baby, if Dana's right and she were able to banish Renard that way and save however many people from the awful things that he's put all of his victims through, would that be worth it?
I mean, I think that's a fair question as well. And I don't know if I particularly have the answer for it. I think it's a horrible situation in any case to have a baby that through rape and that you don't want, and there's no easy choice. You could have the baby, you could keep the baby, but that lives on. You could have the baby, you could give the baby up for adoption, but then that lives on. You know, you've brought a child into the world and you've sent them off and hope that they had a good life. But and also in terms of the show, the baby has already killed someone. Like, because of the abortion, because that was the child in her. It wasn't.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about that.
So what does that mean for the child?
Interesting.
Even though it was trying to protect itself, is it something that she's going to birth out into the world and all of a sudden it's Rosemary's Baby, or all of a sudden it's like Damien from The Omen or something?
So to that point, do we think that do we think it was a little bit of, of protesting too much when she says that my son is a good man and he's influential and he's safe and he doesn't know who he is?
I mean, I don't know. I think that's something that we don't know much about, so it's hard to assume. I mean, I think from judging by this, you would assume that, judging by Dana's behavior, that maybe he's not as great as she thinks. But with that said, judging off of what we've already known for what this child has done, or for what this, we don't even know if it's really a child, what this thing has done inside of her. It could be dangerous for her to have the baby. Like, it could kill her. It could, who knows? So now, there's a lot of different factors.
On the topic of sacrifice, do we think? I feel like it might have been a little bit over the top for them to take. I mean, obviously it had a purpose for them, but for them to take the Hexenpaxen and basically like serve Dana up to Reynard. Like, did you think that was a little cold-blooded? Or do you think she had it coming?
No, I don't think Dana had it coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think Julia was thinking in the interest of herself, and probably didn't even think Reynard would come for Dana.
Right.
Like, it probably didn't occur to her that he would. But at the same time, like, she was about to essentially enslave Julia and force her to conceive this child or birth this child that she didn't want to do.
Sure.
So who knows? I think at this point, Julia's main focus is how to protect herself and how to get rid of this child,
right,
or baby.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely the Reynard, this kind of a villain. I feel like I haven't seen a villain this wholly evil in a very long time.
Yeah,
like I feel like a lot of villains now are more of the kind of
complicated.
They're more kind of complicated, and they're more almost like anti-heroes, where it's like, all right, yeah, they're bad, but like you like them a little bit. Whereas this guy is like every single type of evil that they could possibly imagine.
Well, Adrian did hint at when he came on the show that there's more to Reynard than even what we're seeing now, and I was kind of like, oh no. I was like, can I just hate him? He turned a cat inside out. He's raped multiple women.
Oh, that cat scene was rough to watch.
Oh my gosh.
Boy.
So everything with Reynard has just been incredibly difficult, and I just would like him to be dead.
Right. Right.
But who knows?
Now let's talk about this Niffen version of Alice. Quentin's at her memorial. He's spending almost the entire episode with Daniel and Stephanie, kind of trying to summon her, and she's around, but not in the way that he would like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to me watching him go through all these motions, going from one end of the spectrum to the other, going from like, look, you're not even real. I'm not even, seeing things right, to, okay, like we're
gonna try.
Yeah, we're speaking Egyptian Arabic into an enchanted mirror to summon you.
Yeah, I thought just him having the confirmation from Daniel, like, I believe you, was enough for him to at least try.
And I was surprised that happened so quickly.
Yeah, I guess, because they're magicians.
Yeah,
so it would make sense that, and also because they had that clue of Alice asking about Ghost beforehand.
Right. That's true, yeah.
But I lost my train of thought. Sorry, it's getting kind of late for me. But no, I think with Alice, that whole setup of him like going into it quickly, especially the way she appears to him, it just looks like she's suffering and in pain. So he wants to, one, be rid of this image of her, and two, if there's any way to actually help her, he wants to do it.
Right.
And he should have known it was a trick.
Oh, of course. And she knows it's this version of her. She knows like exactly how to tug at his heartstrings, and just manipulate him like a puppet.
Yeah.
Which is ironically exactly what her brother did to her in season 1. But we got a lot more than I was expecting from Stephanie. I feel like, I feel like for most of the episode we got this like kind of over the top version of, even at her daughter's memorial, she's saying like, I'm such a better mother than my mother was.
Dude, people do that. I remember I read an obituary, because it became a big deal, this woman who just gave like the most honest obituary about her mom. It was just like,
really,
my mom's kind of a bitch and she didn't treat us right, and she didn't do well.
Right.
Because when people are dead, people get super real.
Sure. 100.
Yeah, or they lock into this mindset that they've already had, So I think for Stephanie, that wasn't out of character. The most out of character thing was for her to just actually be honest about
when she kind of broke down in front of that mirror. That was a really kind of heart-wrenching moment for me. The fact that even in the face of this mirror, she started out like, this is all about me. This is all about me. And then when Quentin finally broke her down and finally got her to be honest, it was such a raw, kind of vulnerable moment.
And it almost seems like Niff and Alice just did all of this just to mess with her parents.
Right.
Like because...
Oh my God, you're exactly right.
Whatever resentment Alice had when she was completely Alice. All of that is gone because the human part of Alice is dead and gone. So it's just pure resentment.
Oh, she broke up her dad's legs.
Yeah, she broke her dad's leg. She made her mother face who she really was, and how she really felt about Alice. And then she appears to Quentin, just like, I tricked you, you sucker. You're so vulnerable. I'm going to mess with you from now on.
Right.
So it was kind of like, oh man, this Neff and Alice. It's kind of like what the Beast was saying about Shade. Like, when it's just pure magic, when there's just nothing holding you back, it's just like pure power. It just corrupts absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Definitely. I was on the topic of the Beast. I know, obviously, I wasn't here, but I'm going to jump back just a little bit. I was expecting a much bigger death for the Beast. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, me
just
too.
Opening up that jacket, and it felt kind of like Oogie Boogie from A Nightmare Before Christmas. Just all the bugs flying out.
Yeah. Well, I think because he had been such a big part of season 1.
Right.
And because he came back, I thought there was going to be more of him kind of guiding Julia and their relationship developing, and then maybe him like snatching her shade from her.
Yeah, right.
That the fact that it didn't go with that, and I don't know, I haven't read the book, so maybe that they're going along with like how the books went. It just seemed so quick. It just seemed like, oh well, we only seen his face for 2 episodes, and now he's gone. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think now that there's such a bigger, badder villain, obviously, I think that whenever that vanquishing happens, if and when it does, I feel like they're gonna do it up big.
I think if it had been a 23 episode type of show, then we would have more time with him.
Right.
Because it's 13, yeah.
And that, for some reason, as I was on my way here, I was thinking about season 1. I was like, there were like 20 episodes in season 1, weren't there? I was like, no, there definitely wasn't. It just
only
felt
13.
So much happened. It felt like that.
Yeah.
Mark, can we get us some super quick predictions? Like really quick? Like ultra quick?
Your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
As much as I love the theremin, we're running short on time. So we leave off this episode with war being declared on Loria.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
I think Margot stuck her foot in her mouth. She doesn't know what she's doing.
Yep.
I think that's gonna be evident. I think Niff and Alice is going to have a ton of fun with Quentin because he's just so fragile right now. And I think with Julia and Katie was having a new lead on a way to get a supernatural abortion, so I think they're going to follow that. Right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I think we're going to see more of Elliot's pacifist side. I think from the influence that Fenn's having on him and his decision not to execute the Foo Fighter, I think is indicative of where we're going with him from here. But I'm interested to see how he interacts with Margot, how Margot interacts with Princess. I'm very interested in seeing more of Princess as this kind of war rages on. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, that was the Cock Barrens.
Yeah, Cock Barrens.
That was a fun episode to talk about.
We did it. 2 people.
2. We're 50% of a squad, but we had no less fun.
Yes.
Adrian Snow, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. It's MSADRINSNOW.
Mark Donica, where can they find you?
That was random. You can find me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica.
There you go. You can find me on social media at Ty Matthews PMA, as well as various other after shows, including Monday Night Raw on Monday nights, obviously. We'll be right back here, same bad time, same bad channel, next week, talking Season 2, Episode 7. But until then, peace.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.